What's up, friends, and welcome back to my channel. I recently put out an April Fool's video on the Oura Ring 3, and much to my surprise, the company actually got a ton of emails and DMs from you guys asking if the new Oura Ring finally came out. Hopefully they're not too pissed at me for that, but more than that, I love how excited you guys got over this, and that got me thinking, aren't they due for an upgrade soon? I love my ring, and I've been wearing it pretty much daily for the past 2.5 years, but it certainly has its flaws. So is it worth holding out for the third generation, or is the Oura Ring still worth the money as it stands today? Well, stick around as I share the pros and cons of this device, explain to you how my relationship to the Oura Ring has actually changed over time, and I'll share my honest thoughts on when I think we can expect to see a new and improved version of this increasingly popular sleep tracker. But first, if you're new here, welcome. My mission is to help you achieve success without sacrificing your health or happiness. I do product reviews weekly, so if you're into this, click that subscribe button and join the Type A tribe. Now, I think it's safe to say that the Oura Ring pretty much became a household name in 2020. From NBA deals to Time's list of the best inventions of 2020, the Oura Ring made its way into some pretty big hands, or fingers, not as a fashion statement, but rather as a bold way of saying, I take my health and sleep seriously. But after having tried countless sleep trackers over the past year, from the Muse S to the Dream 2, the 8 Sleep, the Mi Band, the Whoop strap, there's only one thing that I know is for certain. None of them are perfect. Now, granted, some of them definitely work better than others, but in terms of sleep accuracy, the technology is just not there for any of these at-home devices, no matter how many infrared sensors they throw in. Now, give it 3 to 5 years and we'll be a heck of a lot closer to sleep lab precision. You're simply not going to get that from any of the consumer trackers you choose today. That being said, does that mean you just shouldn't bother tracking your sleep at all? Certainly not. There is still a lot of really useful data that I think can be gleaned from one of these devices. I would just caution you on overanalyzing your nightly sleep stats and rather focus on the big picture trends. Which brings me to the pros and cons of the Oura Ring 2 years later. Now, first off, you might be wondering, well, do you still check your nightly sleep scores? And the answer is, yeah, I do. But my relationship to checking has drastically changed in just the last year itself. I used to obsess over why my readiness score was so low or why I only got 30 minutes of REM sleep one night. But as time went on, I started to realize that none of those stats really made a heck of a lot of a difference in how I actually felt the next day. It's totally natural to have some mediocre nights of sleep mixed with some really stellar nights of sleep. But obsessing over these stats doesn't change anything. And so I've learned that even if your readiness score is off the charts, it is still so important to listen to your body in order to know how hard to push yourself that day. Which sort of leads me to sleep trends. And this is really where I think you can get the most value from your ring, even if those nightly stats aren't perfect. Nowadays, I treat the Oura Ring more like a retrospective tool. Were my sleep scores better or worse than last month? And what factors could have potentially caused this change? Maybe it was travel, maybe I got sick or changed up my sleep routine. Whatever the case may be, I found that it's really hard to gauge how much my sleep has changed in one night due to one factor, except for maybe alcohol. And so that's what prompted me to establish this 1-month rule, because it's a long enough period of time to really evaluate and fully test something, and yet it's still a short enough amount of time to notice a bad pattern and take actions to course correct. And finally, let's talk about health stats, because this is really where my perspective on the ring has changed the most. After a year and a half of testing dozens of different sleep trackers, all of them off by some percentage from one another, I stopped worrying as much about my exact REM and deep sleep scores, and instead I diverted my attention over to things like heart rate, HRV, and body temperature. Now, for one, these 3 metrics tend to be a little bit more precise because you're getting the data coming straight from the ring's sensors, not an algorithm. And then of course there's temperature and stress, which are really the 2 biggest factors that will totally mess up my sleep. In general, the less stressed I am, the higher my HRV, and therefore the better my sleep tends to be. And And conversely, the cooler my bedroom, the lower my heart rate and body temperature, and the better off my sleep scores and overall state of health. So really, HRV, heart rate, and body temperature are what I like to call my foundational stats. These are the metrics to watch for any major fluctuations because overall they tend to stay pretty consistent, and so any major changes could indicate something about a change in your health. As for some of the major software developments that I've seen to the Oura Ring in the past year, I gotta say I'm probably most impressed by their rest mode, which is a special feature that you can enable if you want to prioritize recovery over everything else. So when you turn it on, the app will actually auto-adjust your readiness score to really emphasize things like heart rate variability and resting heart rate, and then snooze all your daily activity scores and those kind of stats for the time being. It's a really useful option if you're traveling or get sick, and you can even tag your symptoms so you can keep track of what's going on with your health at this time. Now, in terms of activity tracking, I found that even though the Ring is far from being a perfect fitness tracker, it has gotten a lot better at auto-detecting my workouts. A year ago, I had to track all of my workouts through the Apple Watch and then go back and manually add them into the Oura app. But nowadays, the Oura Ring tracks and picks up on nearly all of my exercise activities for the day. And it's getting so much better at actually self-categorizing them into things like running, cycling, and even hiking. Now, as for the downsides of this device, my biggest complaint would be accuracy for sure. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is kind of the state of the industry we're in right now. And I expect that with each new generation of the Ring, they're gonna get more accurate as new technology emerges. My second complaint is on battery life. Lately, I've been running into this issue where the Oura Ring doesn't send me a low battery update and then will just randomly die in the middle of the night. So obviously pretty frustrating. And even though the Oura Ring on their website says it can get up to 7 days of battery life, I think it's more realistically like 4 to 5 days at most if you're wearing your Ring all the time like I do. And even though the Ring is relatively low profile, I've heard a lot of complaints over the past year about how the Ring is really not compatible for weightlifting. Now, I am not the perfect candidate to talk about this, but my good friend Shervin Shares, who happens to be a fellow YouTuber, weightlifter, and he's visiting the Big Island, does have some ideas on this. And so I'm gonna let him take the floor and share his thoughts.
First, they need active heart rate monitoring. And second, the Ring needs to expand so I can wear it on my wrist while I'm working out.
And finally, I do wish that the Ring had more flexible sizing options. So this is a little embarrassing, but since moving to Hawaii, my fingers have definitely swelled up more due to the humidity. And it often takes a lot of soap and water to get this bad boy off. And hopefully I'm not alone in this because I do think that most people's fingers do change sizes throughout the day. So why not just include some type of flexible bracket or something adjustable so that you could easily slip the Ring on and off your finger, much like you would a watch or even a headband. And alas, this leads me to my final point, which you're probably all wondering, when are we going to see the new Oura Ring? And I swear I have absolutely no insider secrets. I think, at least my gut feeling, is that we're not gonna see a new Ring until 2022. And here's why. Oura Ring blew up last year. That means their order fulfillment went through the roof. Now let's rewind to 2.5 years ago when I first bought the Ring, and the average shipping time was 1 to 2 months. Nowadays, it's 1 to 2 days. So that tells me that they probably spent a lot of time and resources on really honing in this manufacturing process, not to mention all the money they probably have spent on updating their website, closing big deals, and all that influencer marketing. But I think it's safe to say that a new generation of the Ring is probably in the works or close to it, because according to their LinkedIn page, looks like they're recruiting a bunch of new hardware engineers and some test engineers. So that, plus all of that $28 million worth of Series B funding, got me thinking they're probably gonna spend a little extra time and money on some new projects, if you know what I mean. But like a good journalist, I also reached out to the company for a comment saying, can we expect to see the Ring anytime soon? To which they replied, not yet. So if you're thinking about ordering one, should you stick it out for this next generation in the next year or so, or spend the $300 on the Oura Ring as it stands today? Now, I would argue that any sleep tracker is better than no sleep tracker, so if you can afford it, the Oura Ring is still one of the best trackers on the market, especially because it is so high tech and so low profile. But if your main goal is really fitness tracking, then Oura Ring would definitely not be my first pick. As it stands right now, I think you're really better off going with something like the BioStrap or even the Whoop Band or Apple Watch, at least to see where things shape up with how the Oura Ring tackles fitness with their new generation. Now, of course, I'm talking very generically here, but the truth is that many of these tracking devices, picking out one is so situational. It really does depend on things like your environment, your habits, your lifestyle, and your goals. And so I am happy to answer any questions that you may have about the Oura Ring or any of the other miscellaneous sleep trackers I've tried and how they might fit into your lifestyle. You can connect with me on my Instagram or email, and you can find all those links, and I'll be happy to talk to you at katietypea.com. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you learned something, if you like this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you get notified each week I drop a new video. And until then, I can't wait to catch you on the next one.
Hey guys, vlogging here on the DJI Ronin S. Katie, what are you doing back there?
Hey, why are you in my bedroom?
Oops.
Get out.